Good afternoon. I am Gwendolyn Sappho, Vice President of the League, and I will be the moderator for the Alachua County Sheriff position. There are three Democratic candidates who will be on the primary ballot for the sheriff seat: Mr. Peter King, Mr. Chad Scott, and Mr. Latrell Simmons. The winner will run against the current interim sheriff, Emery Gainey, a Republican, and Pamela Marshall-Koons, who has no party affiliation, in the general election in November. The Alachua County Sheriff is elected in a partisan election and serves a 4-year term. However, there is no term limit. So the format of the forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. This will be followed by 3 questions. You will each have 1 1/2 minutes to answer the questions. You will be able to see the timer that will indicate the remaining time at 30 seconds and stop. When your time is up, please stop. Your microphone may or may not be muted. We will begin with opening statements in alphabetical order. Mr. Peter King, your statement, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the League of Women Vote. I'm sorry. Press the button.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I think it's better. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Bob Graham Center. I do appreciate you putting on this forum. Okay. All right. I'm Peter King. I'm a lifelong resident of Alachua County. I went to P.K. Young High School for 12 years, graduated in 13 years, graduated in 1984. After high school, I enlisted in the United States Army Reserve, where I served for 20 years, retiring in 2005. After that, I was hired at the Alachua County Sheriff Office, where I started my career in 2000. And I was 2 months shy of hitting my 24th year. I'm a servant leader. My plan is to make Alachua County the safest county in the state and eventually in this country. We're going to do that through strong leadership, a leadership with empathy and compassion, and it's about making this community, like I said, the safest in the county and in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Scott, your statement, please.
Good evening. Thank you guys for coming. My name is Chad Scott. I was born in Newberry. I went to college at Bethel College, where I received a bachelor's degree. After college, I got my first job at the North Florida Evaluation and Treatment Center, where I worked with NGI and ITP patients, which is not guilty by reasons of insanity and incompetent to withstand trial. After that, I got hired by the Alachua Sheriff's Office in 1990. I worked in patrol. I got promoted to sergeant, where I worked at the street crimes unit. First of all, I was a school resource officer as well, where I was at Newberry, and I taught the first criminal justice class for school resource. After that, I went to the Alachua Police Department, where I rose through every rank. Then I got the chief position, and we encountered gun violence, which is plaguing the community right now. We put it to bed through collaboration with local and federal officials. We gained control of the situation. But thank you so much, Chad Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Next, Mr. Latrell Simmons, your statement, please.
First of all, thank you for being here today with us. Latrell Simmons, candidate for Sheriff of Alachua County. A little bit about my campaign is that it's based on proven leadership, experience, and transparency. My experience over at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, I was there for a little over 22 years. During that time, I held a variety of different positions: the Major of Operations, Major of Support Services, the Chief Inspector, the Assistant Jail Director, as well as Security Operations Commander, among a variety of other leadership positions as well. A little bit about my platform. I plan to focus on gun violence, traffic safety, mental health, and some other concerns that are plaguing our community, the homelessness. While most people may not think that it's a law enforcement concern, it very well is. Homeless people, as well as those that suffer from mental health, often end up in the jail, and that is not the place for them. We must find other alternatives for them. Traffic safety, we all drove to get here, so we know how traffic is out on the streets. Gun violence, we must do something about it immediately and focus on our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to our questions. As a reminder, you will have 1.5 minutes to answer. We will start with the second candidate alphabetically and then rotate the order in which the candidates respond to the questions. The first question is, what do you believe is the number one thing that needs to change at the Sheriff's Department, and how would you change it? We will begin with Mr. Chad Scott. Your answer, please.
The first thing I want to focus on at the Sheriff's Office, if you deal with people on the inside, I think you have to deal with people that are competent, capable, confident in their jobs, and also have the passion and the empathy and love for people. The first thing I want to encounter is on the inside, and to build emotional intelligence within people. If you cannot get along on the inside, how are you going to expect people to deal with folks on the outside? So I want to focus on relationships and leadership within the Sheriff's Office that with people that have passion and love and empathy for other people. You know, without that, you don't have anything. We deal with people at the most vulnerable times of their lives. When you talk about somebody has been a victim of rape or gun violence. So we have to have empathy. You have to have passion, and I don't expect us to deal with people on the outside if we're not dealing properly with each other on the inside. So my focus will be on people that are competent, capable, and confident, and coupled with passion for the job, and empathy and love. That's the first thing. That's the first thing we have to do, because if you don't, there's people now in all agencies wearing a uniform that don't need to be wearing a uniform. So we have to focus on positive relationship with our community. That's where it starts.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Next, Mr. Latrell Simmons, your answer, please.
All right, that's a difficult question. There are quite a few things that I would like to change over at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. But the primary thing would be, sorry, can you hear me now? Is that better? All right. There are quite a few things that I would change over at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, but the primary concern that I have is with the leadership and the administration. Right now, when I become sheriff, I'm going to bring in a diverse group of people who are experienced and care about their employees. I personally feel that if we take care of our employees, they would take care of the community that they serve. There have been throughout history that there's a divide between whether you work at the jail, over on the law enforcement side, and also in other areas. We are all human. We all signed up to work at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office to serve this Alachua County community and beyond. Therefore, the administration should treat all of their employees the same way. And I believe, like I said previously, that will pass over to you as citizens with the service that we provide. I can go on and on about the training that I want to implement within the agency for our personnel, but I'm limited to 1 minute and 30 seconds. All right. So after, I still have 12 seconds. After this forum, please come upstairs and see me, and we can continue this conversation about the Alachua County Sheriff's Office and how you can be a part of it as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Mr. Peter King, your answer, please.
Yes, ma'am. Like Latrell said, many things that we changed at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. But for me also, it has to start with leadership. A leader that's compassionate, working hard with the community, and working hard within the agency. It has a lot to do with sympathy, and we have to train our deputies up to do what's right, based on the leadership style. I believe that a leader needs to lead with compassion. He needs to be really focused on bringing up what's right, do what's right within the agency. There are leaders now within the agency that lead only because they're in the position. We got to have somebody that's passionate about leadership and not just being in the position. So once we get leaders in there that are passionate about leading with just the passion and not being in the position, things are going to change. We have to have our command staff be a reflection of our community. Alachua County is a diverse, very diverse community, and right now our command staff isn't a reflection of our community. So we got to change our command staff and make it be a reflection of our community, and also have our agency be a reflection of our community. It's one-sided. There are a lot of good people at the jail that have some issues, and things that over there are somewhat one-sided. So we need to change the diversity of the agency and bring in people with compassion that's going to lead with passion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Our next question is, what strategies will you use to build and maintain community trust? We will start with Mr. Simmons. Your answer, please.
All right, what strategies will I use to build and maintain community trust? Well, if you look over my history at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, you'll see that the majority of it was involved being out in the community. I was a school resource deputy for several years. I was a supervisor over the program. Some of you may have had family members that attended the Washington, D.C. Safety Patrol trip. I believe I went up there at least 10 times with 1,200 kids or so, and parents and chaperones. But we must engage. We must engage in our community. And you can't do that from behind a desk. You have to get out, go into all parts of Alachua County, which is, quite frankly, I don't feel like it's being done right now. There are certain sectors of Alachua County that get the sheriff's office attention, while others don't. And the ones that don't need the sheriff's office attention the most. That's where you have violent crimes occurring. And one way to prevent that is to have our young people engaged in something. All of my kids played sports growing up, and I believe that gave them something to do when they left school for the day and then they came home at night. We must engage in our young people if we want to see a change in the gun violence and to develop the community's trust at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. King, your answer, please.
Great strategies are what we're going to need to make this county, to build trust in this county. And unfortunately, I got to echo what Simmons said. We got to be in the community. We got to have programs and have outreach programs in the communities where we're having some issues at. Me personally, I will be out there in the community. I will go from community to community. We got to have a leader that when you go in the community where we're having some issues at, that community has to be able to receive that leader, that sheriff, and I'm that person. My personality in every community I go into, I served warrants for 12 years. I was in school resource also. And I built a relationship within all of these communities because they came through our school, and now since they were my students, now they're adults and they have children. So the relationship that I built with them during the school years is a strong relationship that I have now. And everybody has dispersed to different communities. I've lived in a lot of those communities. I know how to relate to those communities. They have to have somebody they can relate to. And by relating and living in the past, going through some things that they went through, they can understand and we can relate. So it's going to take somebody going out into communities, being in those communities, establishing a relationship and building a relationship, making a strong relationship, and with strong rapport, then I will have a strong strategy and we will fix things in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Scott. Your answer, please.
Well, I've been in law enforcement now for 34 years, and I've served in every capacity that you can possibly serve in law enforcement. And I have much love for and empathy for people. But as far as regaining the trust and respect, it's people call me today, every day, but you have to have transparency. You know, you have to be able to communicate with the people and get your narrative out first. You got to communicate with the people. People want to hear from you. If something happened, they want to hear from you. We got to get the narrative out first. The other thing is accessibility. You got to be accessible to the people. People got to be able to reach you. People got to be able to give you a call. You got to be accessible. If people know me, Chad Scott, when they call me, I answer. I answer my phone. You don't have to call my sergeant, my lieutenant, or any other person other than me. People want to hear from the sheriff, not the undersheriff, the sheriff. You have to be accessible. The third thing is dedication. I have been dedicated. I have been dedicated to my community for 34 years, and believe it or not, I've never called in sick. Never called in sick because I love my community. So when you talk about trust, that's trust. That's when people trust you, when they'll be able to call you and to be able to get an answer. When it comes to public records requests, when they want to know something, tell them how to get it. Tell them how to get it. That's because that's what they want to know. You have to be accessible, you have to be transparent, and you have to be dedicated to your community. And I have done that. This is nothing about Chad Scott. This is about my community in which I love and which you love, so I can protect your kids and your children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Now for the third and final question. Gun violence continues to be on the rise in our community. What policies, preventative measures, or programs do you plan to put in place to curb this public health crisis if elected to this office? We will begin with Mr. King. Your answer, please.
Gun violence is definitely plaguing this community, this county. What I think is important that we have to reach back, do something, think a way out of the box. There are some people that have been down this road before that have committed some of these crimes. They use guns and gun violence. They have since done their time. Now those people want to come back and give back to the community and pull our youth away from that. What's important, we got to have them come in, talk with our youth, guide them along the right lines. We got to have programs for them after school, programs for them to be involved with that shows the right way to go and how to deal with conflict. There's a lot of conflict resolution that we can put in at our schools. We did it at Eastside for years, and our fight went down because it was a conflict resolution that was mediated by their peers. So with the gun violence, we bring in people that's been down that road before, have them interact with our youth, get the programs going, show them how to make a better decision, and from there move on and keep contact and reinforcement and constant contact to ensure that they don't go back to those decisions to use gun violence. Go to gun violence. It's very important that we think out of the box and bring people that we never would expect to come in and do these things for us. It's people that's serving in this community. That's how we're going to do it. That's my way of getting this thing taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Chad Scott. Your answer, please.
I've been on a street crimes unit, and I've been a supervisor on a street crimes unit. And dealing with gun violence right now, there's consequences and repercussions because these guys and the active shooters, they're killing each other. So the model that you have to use right now is called an ILP, which is intelligence-led policing. You don't focus on the people, you focus on the problem. You know, you have crime analysts that's putting data together when these things happen, and then you have data that you can focus directly on that problem. There's no way around that. You have to focus on the problem. However, there's another part that we need to focus on as a community is early intervention. Statistics say 0 to 5 is when a child's mind is developed. The main part of their development is 0 to 5. So as a police department, we have to collaborate with other people, such as in the school resource program, business owners, community leaders, and clergy, to find out how can we get to these kids early intervention. You have big brothers, you take stock in children to deal with this issue. But if you look around, if you look at Grand Theft Auto, you think about all these video games and these mothers that's working and not paying attention, these kids are shooting each other. So we have to get information out to these parents that say, hey, listen, we got to find other things for them to do. We got to find sports, theater, anything. But we collaboratively, we have to get this on the table with all agencies, school board and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Latrell Simmons, your answer, please.
Thank you. I think this is one of our biggest problems. I know for a fact that this is one of our biggest problems in our community. We're losing way too many lives of young people in our community. Is that better? Thank you. All right. What are we going to do about gun violence in our community? Because I can tell you that the sheriff's office can't do it alone. We need our community there with us to be our eyes, our ears, and the support when we start rolling out initiatives. One of the things that was alluded to previously by the other two candidates was the school resource program. It is an extremely strong program in our county. And as I mentioned earlier, I was a school resource officer as well as I supervised the unit for many years. Peter King mentioned that a lot of those kids come back and talk to you after they graduate high school. That is where you get some of your intelligence from, because they're out there in those communities, the same communities that don't have the necessary resources. And as the sheriff of Alachua County, I would partner with other agencies throughout the county to provide resources to those communities so they don't have to go out and sell drugs, so they don't have to go out and steal. In addition to that, youth dialogue. There's a barrier between law enforcement and our youth in this community. We had youth dialogue going strong at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office while I was there, and we established so many wonderful relationships. In addition to that, mental health for our youth, and also provide jobs and resources in those communities that need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. This ends the panel for the Alachua County Sheriff's seat. Thank you so much, candidates, for participating today.